After getting drunk, my best friend actually shoved the groomsman into my bed. I expected to face the ultimate embarrassment of public humiliation. Instead, he pulled out a recording of my drunken, lecherous rambling and turned the tables on me. Not only did he demand a huge compensation fee, he even proposed an absurd condition: paying the debt with my body. Forced to sign a contract selling myself as his nanny, I unexpectedly discovered his phone was full of recordings of my most humiliating lines. Right now, he's smirking and waving his phone at me. If you don't want these recordings showing up in the company chat, hard work pays off. My good friend married her crush. To thank me, her wingwoman, she went all in and conveniently sent the groomsman straight to my bed. You always act so fragile and helpless. Who knew you could be so bold? Waking from a hangover, I sat with my back to the still sleeping man on the bed, gritting my teeth as I whispered into the phone. On the other end, Julia was clearly half asleep. Huh? What did you say? My body ached. My head throbbed. Don't play dumb. What happened with Jason? Jason, Julia paused. Didn't you move across from his place? I just asked him to help get you home. Did something happen? I glanced back at Jason lying on his side. He had his eyes closed, half his face sunk into the pillow, dark hair messy. Strange marks ran across the shoulder, peeking out from the cover. I couldn't help miming the shape with my hand. Definitely kiss marks. I slapped my own face, inhaled. It's nothing. Julia didn't buy it. Really? You sound weird. Really? I forced a light tone. I just got spooked seeing Jason asleep on my couch. A cold chuckle came from behind me. My hand jerked and I reflexively hit the end call. Jason's voice, low and hoarse with post-sleep laziness, said, "You call that a couch?" He sat up and the blanket slid down to his waist, revealing a muscular torso, more ugly marks. Enough to make you look away. I shakily tugged the blanket up. Jason laughed quietly, grabbed my wrist and gave a hard yank. I tumbled back onto the bed. My waist went numb, then a sharp ache followed. I looked up into Jason's dark, unreadable eyes and drained color from my face. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. "Isn't there always a classic line for this?" I frowned, thought for a beat, then said seriously, "Don't worry, I'll take responsibility. Even if things derailed beyond my control, the result could still be salvaged." Jason studied me for a few seconds, then snorted. "No need." He held up a finger to indicate a number. I blinked. "Pay me," he said. Jason being Jason, sometimes I wanted to wring his neck even though I had a crush on him. "I don't have money. My life is on the line," I snapped. "You expect me to handle this alone? Don't you have any responsibility? Besides, I blacked out too. Who knows who made the first move?" I had blown nearly all my savings to get the apartment across from Jason. There was no spare cash to pay his compensation. Jason didn't look annoyed. He lazily picked up his clothes, fumbled for his phone, and after a few taps, a familiar laugh spilled from the speaker. "Heh, just one kiss, and you'll get anything you want." Heh. My shoulders collapsed. I couldn't believe drunk me sounded that sleazy. I couldn't believe that when a drunk beauty practically threw herself at him, Jason's first instinct was to record it. "You might as well strangle me." I gave up. I'm broke. Jason's knuckled hand rose slowly. In my terrified eyes, it skimmed my throat. Then his gaze dropped a few inches as if he'd thought of something. His eyes narrowed. His Adam's apple bobbed. I followed his stare and tightened my collar. "Keep looking and I'll start charging by the minute." Jason licked his lips. "I know you've been short on cash lately." My eyes widened. "He's blackmailing me?" He sighed. "Then let's talk about paying your debt with your body." I was stunned and oddly thrilled. My promise to take responsibility, and Jason's paying with body, they sounded similar, right? Later I learned they couldn't be more different. I wanted to date Jason. Jason wanted me to be his housekeeper. My verbal sparring fell apart in the face of the recordings on his phone. Jason said, "If you don't agree, I'll send these to the work chat and let everyone judge." As if everyone at the company already knew Jason and I never got along. Back when I graduated college, I joined the company, worked hard, and was on track for 2 promotions and a big raise. Then Jason landed out of nowhere as my boss and shoved a deputy in front of my title. Office gossip had been chewing on that for months. If they found out I couldn't outplay Jason and had been drooling after him, if they heard I was pretending to be harsh while really a lecher at heart, I'd just pack up and leave. So, I was forced to sign a 2-month sell-yourself contract. Julia was going on her honeymoon. Before she boarded, she sent me a video. I glanced around the elevator crowd, stepped aside, and opened it. The clip was from the reception 2 nights ago. In a bridesmaid dress, I staggered toward Jason, flushed, hugged his waist, and refused to let go. Julia and the other girls tried desperately but couldn't pry me off. I stood there dumbfounded until a voice beside me commented, "Watching this so early in the morning. Tisk." Jason, in shirt and trousers with his hands in his pockets, stood slightly behind me. His gaze flicked to my phone with a hint of disdain on his cool face. People around us looked back. 2 of them were girls from the office, who exchanged a conspiratorial look and stifled giggles. I closed my eyes and forced down my anger. I forced a smile. "Morning, Mr. Jason." He straightened, his gaze passing over the coffee I was holding, ready to be squeezed, and a corner of his mouth tipped up. "That coffee looks good. From the cafe across the street. Carlos gets it for you sometimes, right?" I answered cheerfully. He glanced at his watch. 15 minutes till work. "If Miss Isabel has nothing else to do, 1 Americano. No sugar, please." I rolled my eyes and said nothing. The elevator arrived. I stepped in with the crowd, but Jason stopped me, watching helplessly as the doors slid shut. "What are you doing?" I glared. Jason leaned to my ear and chuckled low. "Isabel, is my waist really that slim?" I reflexively looked down. His shirt was neatly tucked, his waistline cinched, and with those long legs, the proportions were perfect. "Wow, such a tiny waist. Come on. Strip so your sister can have a feel." That was the line from the recording, my own words. As the saying goes, don't drink and drive. I was humiliated and furious. I hissed, "Not as tiny as yours," and fled. At lunch, Carlos sidled over like always. "Director Bell, I saw you buy coffee for the director this morning." Hear that, different titles for different intimacies. "Oh? What's up?" During those 15 minutes, I had greeted Jason 800 times in my head. Carlos hesitated, lowered his voice, and asked, "Director Bell, are you switching targets to go after the director instead?" What? That was a lot to process. I was so stunned I forgot to swallow the pastry I'd bitten. I stared straight at Carlos. "They say you pined for Tony and, failing that, used the director as a stand-in." Then Carlos launched into a melodramatic tale of love and betrayal. So vivid, I nearly stood up and applauded. If only I hadn't been the protagonist. Apparently, in their eyes, I'd always liked Jason's cousin Tony, while Tony chose my best friend Julia. At the wedding, I'd gotten smashed and latched onto Jason, who looked about 50% like Tony, and spilled my heart out. No, I cut him off. "Don't you know there's a kind of crying called tears of joy?" Carlos warmed up to the story, waved it off. What's the difference?" "Carlos Garcia. I pronounced his full name 1 syllable at a time." "You went to the wedding just to collect gossip for co-workers?" Carlos froze, then cautiously read my face. He tested the waters. "So, Director Bell, why did you hug the director?" "Fine, here's the real story, which starts with an accident a year ago. It was a sunny afternoon when Julia rear-ended someone. She called me and I rushed over. Unsurprisingly, it was entirely her fault. Unexpectedly, Julia fell head over heels for the other driver. Blushing, she hid behind me and stammered out a few words. I did most of the talking. When it was time to add WeChat, she whipped out her QR code in a flash. The man smiled gently. "I'm Tony." I looked up, squinting at his gentle, handsome face. "Do you know Jason?" Tony blinked. "My cousin's name is Jason. That Jason was the same Jason." Later, Julia excitedly told me Tony taught languages at a school near her dessert shop. Tony had just returned to the country. His place was being renovated, so he was crashing at Jason's. Perfect timing. Belle, please help me. She ceremoniously thrust 2 boxes of fancy pastries into my hands and asked me to cozy up to Jason for intel. I scoffed. Belle, Julia swore, if this works, our kids will make you their godmother. Good grief. Some people can't even say a word to someone's face, but they've already picked a godmother behind their back. I handed the desserts to Jason with a smile, while my department colleagues, including Jason, gave me that indescribable look. After half a month of deliveries, Jason softened a bit. When he took the first bite of my mango mousse, I asked about Tony. Jason showed me a cold face and politely escorted me out of the office, telling me the mousse tasted awful. My first attempt at making dessert had been destroyed. Like that, I stormed off to find Carlos and rant at him. Tony was cultured, easygoing, handsome and gentle. Jason acted as if the world owed him millions. No wonder Tony had admirers and Jason was ignored even by dogs. Carlos pondered. In hindsight, that was probably when he first thought I had a thing for Tony. After that, I realized relying on Jason wouldn't get me anywhere. So I switched sides and became Julia's wingwoman. When I saw Julia walk down the aisle toward Tony, my eyes filled with tears, a mix of a mother's relief and sadness seeing her girl married. I stole a glance at Jason standing tall nearby and silently vowed next time it'll be me. Damn! That was my 109th regret for liking that bastard Jason. He set me up to work late until 8:30. Exhausted, I was leaving when he texted me to buy midnight snacks. My temper flared. Snacks, huh? I'll make you eat until you regret it. I swung by a barbecue joint, packed a mountain of food, and slammed into Jason's apartment. He was in navy loungewear, wearing rimless glasses on his high nose bridge. His calm eyes skimmed my face through the lenses. Can't you knock softer? He said. I clicked my teeth and tossed the food at him with a cold smile. Your late-night order has arrived. Kidney, oysters, chives. I ordered you a feast so you can rebuild your strength instead of dumping work on co-workers. Watching Jason's expression darken, my smirk widened. Is your girlfriend here? A familiar female voice interrupted our standoff. I looked behind him and froze. Mrs. Smith. I'd only met her once at Tony's wedding, but she was Jason's mother and I'd tried to make a good impression now. I wanted to cry. Mrs. Smith accepted the takeout from my hands with a kind smile, and even fetched slippers for me. Oh, it's Belle. You didn't seem like this last time. Didn't seem like what? I looked up, puzzled. Mrs. Smith beamed. You and Jason are dating, right? I waved it off. No, Auntie, you've got the wrong idea. I didn't get to finish. Jason clapped a hand over my mouth, Mark affectionately wrapping an arm around me. Isabel's sulking with me, Mom. Why don't you go on in? Mrs. Smith nodded without suspicion and headed to the dining room. I slapped Jason's hand away. Before I could ask, he lowered his collar and pointed to a purplish bite mark on his clavicle, saying simply, Your mom saw it on video and came right over. For a moment I was stunned and my cheeks warmed. Why hasn't it faded? I asked. Jason's laugh was icy. That's on you. Flashes of scenes overlapped in my mind. Jason's indifferent face, sweat-slick bodies, and a suggestive panting echoed in my ears. My throat went dry and I couldn't speak. Let's go, Jason said, turning away. Don't give anything away later. Figure out your own explanations. That smug look made me want to throttle him. I refused to be indulged. At the table, I started my role-playing sulk. I ignored the chair he pulled out and planted myself across from him with a wounded, stubborn pout. Mrs. Smith sat beside me and handed me disposable gloves. Concerned, I shook my head and smiled, then pushed the grilled wing he'd placed in front of me away. Mrs. Smith got it, she said. Belle, did Jason bully you? Tell Auntie, and I'll teach him a lesson. So I carefully unfolded my complaints about him making me work overtime and clean his apartment, even theatrically hissing as I pressed my shoulder. Mrs. Smith's face changed instantly. The next scene became a cozy one. Mrs. Smith and I happily eating barbecue and chatting. while Jason knelt beside me, rubbing my shoulders. It felt blissful. Easy, I complained. That hurts. Mrs. Smith shot Jason a deadly look. Jason eased off and murmured in my ear, "Don't regret this." Regret? You won't take responsibility, but you'll gladly fake being my boyfriend. Let's see who regrets it first. I raised an eyebrow, brought a skewer of kidney to Jason's mouth. You earned it, take a bite. He chuckled, his hand sliding from my shoulder to my waist, pressing with practiced skill like an electric current shot through me. I nearly bounced out of my chair. "Keep it for yourself," Jason sneered. "If you're this weak, you should recharge properly." The act felt overdone. After I stomped off in a huff, Mrs. Smith shooed Jason out, lecturing him to come back only after he'd made things right. Couples fight at the head of the bed, make up at the foot. Yet that was all playing a part later. I overheard Mrs. Smith privately tell Jason to secure the family's prospects. I almost tripped over the shoe cabinet. At a certain age, no one escapes parental pressure to marry. After Tony's wedding, Mrs. Smith grew even more urgent. Jason loafed in the hallway while she scolded him, then came and knocked on my door. I wouldn't open it. Through the peephole, I saw Jason smirk, then start punching in the code. I panicked and collided with him as he opened the door. "What are you staring at?" Jason looked untroubled. "You told me the password when you were drunk. That doesn't mean you can barge in. If we're acting, we have to do the full set." He stepped past me into the living room, pausing at the sofa. He glanced back with an odd look. "Seems you're not big on tidying up." My face flushed. "Isn't it clean?" Since moving, I'd been tidier just to avoid surprise visits from him. On the surface, the living room did look neat. Jason bent down, retrieved a tiny black button from the sofa corner, and held it up. "This is the button you tore off my shirt." I didn't want to remember, and quickly changed the subject. "When is Auntie leaving?" "Hard to say." Jason sat down. She was going to video me for a matchmaking meeting. Before I could react, he sighed. "What a pity." His self-pity made me want to scream, "I'm ruined now." Honestly, Jason would get by on that pretty face even if he were missing an arm or leg. I was livid. "What pity?" "I can play along, break up tomorrow, and you can go to your matchmaking date." "No problem." Jason looked up at me, his eyes dark and his lips a thin line of displeasure. He stared until I couldn't move. After a long moment, he snorted. "Forget it. Thanks to you, I've got trauma now." My fists clenched. I wanted to drag him out and make him leave. But my first step was too big, and I tripped, landing awkwardly on top of Jason. The impact was hard enough to make him grunt, and when I looked up, my forehead smacked into his chin. My skull tingled. I could only imagine how much worse he felt. Mercy really is a woman's greatest weakness. I reached up and touched his jaw, which was already turning red. "You okay?" Jason caught my wrist. Now the trauma's even deeper. I knew it. I glared at him, trying to get up, but he held me down. "Really mad?" "Honestly." His voice was unfairly good, clear, magnetic, and now softened with a coaxing tone that made my heart skip. He pointed at his mouth, lowered his voice. "Bite me! Get it out of your system!" In his arms, staring into those dark, dangerously persuasive eyes, I faltered. His clean scent surrounded me. My gaze dropped to his lips, soft and damp. My brain short-circuited, and I sank my teeth into them without mercy. It wasn't until the taste of blood spread that I let go. Belatedly realizing the intimacy, shame and anger flooded me. Jason wiped the blood with a crooked grin. "Wicked. There we go." "There we go, what?" "Proof I made up with my girlfriend." Maybe he was joking, but I floated all night, until I got scolded for spacing out in the meeting the next day. Reality hit. I jotted another tally in my little notebook when I finally win him over. He's paying me back for every single one. On his knees, keyboard punishment. In the break room, Carlos sweetly handed me a cup of tea. With Jason's fire focused on me lately, Carlos was enjoying his peace. Seeing my stormy face, ever the women's ally, Carlos thought a moment and dragged me to the photo studio. Director Bell, cheer up. I'll show you some eye candy. Hotter than Jason? I asked stubbornly. I wasn't sure yet, but this one was younger and way more enthusiastic than Jason. The moment he spotted me during his break, his eyes lit up, and he dropped his water to run over and scoop me into a hug. Belle! He shouted, thrilled. The studio fell dead silent, every gaze landing on me in the corner. I froze, brain rebooting, before I remembered to push him off. That familiar, handsome face made me hesitate. Adam? He nodded, spreading his arms for another hug. His agent yanked him back with a thunderous look. Save it until after work. Gossip spread at lightning speed, especially with Carlos around. My phone exploded with group messages minutes later. Carlos looked at me, torn between burning curiosity and fear of asking. I sighed helplessly. Adam used to be my neighbor. He moved across the street when I was in college, so I'd only see him on breaks. His parents moved a lot for work. In high school, they sent him abroad. After that, we lost touch. Carlos was unimpressed with this explanation. But he seems pretty close to you? I shrugged. His parents were always gone, so mine had him over for meals. I cooked for him, even helped with homework. Didn't think you were that nurturing. The chilly voice cut in. Carlos and I turned. Jason stood behind us. No idea when he'd shown up. His sharp gaze sliced across Carlos. Within a second, Carlos bolted. Funny, neighbor girl. You never cooked for me, Jason said flatly, slacking off during work hours. Isabel Bell. Before he finished, Adam bounded over, filming wrapped. About to fling himself on me again, Jason tugged me to his side, brow furrowed. You're not gonna dodge? Adam grabbed my other arm, glaring. Who's he? I shrank between two 6-foot-plus men, trapped like a quail. He's my boss, I sighed. Adam, how many times have I told you not to rush at me like that? His agent shot me an approving look, then dragged Adam off to lecture him. Jason smirked at me. Boss, huh? What about it? That's all we are. Something that simple. He leaned down, voice low. Belle, it was like a feather brushing my heart. I nearly jumped out of my skin. He was flirting. Jason had no clue how irresistible he looked in my eyes. If someone poured me a few shots of strong liquor, I'd probably pounce. Instead, I could only stare blankly to hide my nerves. Adam finished his talk, beamed, and threw an arm around my shoulder. I'm off work. I pulled away. What? You want me to buy you dinner? Adam winked, sly. Belle, you know me too well. Wait till I'm done with work. I caught Jason's dark expression and gave in, slack off again, and I'd be punished with overtime. Jason sneered and stalked off. Since it had been years, Adam and I grabbed dinner, then walked by the river. He'd just returned, signed with an agency, and was doing ads for Now an Easy Start. Adam was a sunny boy, his smile contagious, perfect for the job. It was late when I got home. Just as I keyed in my door, the opposite one opened. Jason stood there, expression blank. Back already. My heart jumped with surprise and secret delight. Were you waiting for me? Jason's lips curved faintly. In your dreams. I rolled my eyes and turned to go in. My mum left you wolfberry pork rib soup. He called. Come get it. I hesitated, then followed him inside. Can I ask something? I said. Talk. This weekend's team outing. Can I bring Adam? He hasn't been back in ages, and it'd be nice to take him hiking. Jason paused, mid-pass of the thermos, lifting his eyes lazily. Family? Sort of, I said after a beat, like a brother. I thought I'd need to argue, but Jason agreed easily. Sure. He pulled out his phone. I'll send you a link. Vote first. I blinked, baffled. Then I opened the link. It was a photo from the studio. Jason and Adam both grabbing my arms. The poll asked me to choose between them. The angle was perfect. I looked like the heroine of a drama. Obviously, Carlos and his gang made it. But Jason was in on it too? I shot him a look. He was unfazed. Pick me! Shameless. I moved to tap Adam's name, but Jason grabbed my hand, forcing it to his option. After voting, the results popped up. I burst out laughing. I understood why he cared. Dozens had voted, and he only got a handful. Embarrassing. Director Jason's reputation in the company, loud and clear. I teased, waving the screen, laughing until my sides hurt. Looks like looks alone won't cut it. Jason only chuckled and shoved me out the door. Life's full of choices. I just didn't expect the second one to come so fast. After sorting my bag, I boarded to find only the seats beside Jason and Adam left. The team outing had rented just one shuttle, one seat to spare. Standing in the aisle, I felt everyone's eager stares. Carlos rubbed his hands like he was about to start betting. Adam patted the seat beside him. "Belle, come sit." Jason said nothing, just flicked me a glance. Then he turned his head toward the window. I hesitated, then yanked Adam up, pushing him into the spot next to Jason. I get carsick, I need a row to myself. Genius, I thought. I dozed off on the ride. When I woke, Jason was beside me. I blinked around the aisle seat. Adam once had. He'd switched to the window, eyes covered with a mask and headphones. Out, cold. The bus was quiet. Jason slept too, head tilted my way. His bangs fell across his forehead, lashes long, nose straight, lips I swallowed hard, glanced around, then waved a hand in front of his face. No reaction. I poked his cheek. Still nothing. Holding my breath, I stole a lightning-quick kiss at the corner of his mouth, then jerked back. Success unnoticed. Hiking filled day one. That night we stayed at a mountain inn. Day two was for sightseeing. The inn was known for its house-brewed liquor, drawing many visitors. After a long day, we all gathered at a big round table. Everyone drank heartily, even Adam was pulled into a few cups. I didn't touch a drop. Don't ask one more drunk recording in Jason's hands and I'd die. Jason, however, was in high spirits, goaded into drinking until he collapsed. Adam hooked one arm around me, the other shoving Jason off. "Belle, he's taking advantage of you," he complained. Once again, I was sandwiched between them. Only now both were drunk. Jason had both arms locked tight around my waist, head resting on my shoulder, eyes closed. If I could, I'd knock both out flat. But my small frame was getting crushed. Carlos tried pulling one, then the other, until he gave up, defeated. I soothed Adam. "Go back to your room with Carlos, okay?" "No," he pouted, cheeks red. "Don't stay alone with him." I turned to Jason, jostling my shoulder to wake him. He only groaned, shifting into a comfier position. "Then here's the deal," I told Adam. "Carlos takes you back first, then comes for Jason, okay?" Adam blinked at me, confused but pliant. "There are other people here. I'm not alone with him." I pointed at the staff clearing the table and other diners. "See? Not alone." Half coaxing, half bullying. Carlos managed to drag Adam out. I called Jason's name a few more times before he finally opened his eyes. They were hazy, wet, and made my heart thump. "I want to sleep. I don't feel good," he murmured, voice rough, almost like a whine. He was drunk, but I was the one reeling. Somehow, I hauled him to his room, stumbling into walls until I dropped him on the bed, sweating buckets. Jason frowned, looking overheated. He tugged at his shirt, baring his collarbone and pale chest, blatantly tempting. The small room felt warmer by the second. I pushed at him, forcing a smile. "I'll check on Adam, then get Carlos to take care of you, okay?" Jason rolled over to face me, his misty eyes full of silent rebuke. "Adam came with me. I can't just leave him." Jason locked my wrist in his grip, eyes steady as he said each word. "I told you. Choose me." I froze. "Okay?" Jason's voice was hoarse. "Okay." Our eyes locked, sparks flying in the charged air. Clearly, Jason felt the same. His lips curved faintly, and with a small tug I fell onto him. In that moment, A dozen thoughts raced through my head, like how I'd explain walking out of his room tomorrow morning. Before I could figure it out, reality smacked me hard. My foot caught the bed frame, twisting my ankle. My yelp stopped Jason cold, his wandering hand suspended. "What's wrong?" he asked. I took the chance to plant a greedy palm on his chest, twisted my ankle, I admitted. His gaze cleared, and he slowly sat up, setting me on the edge of the bed. He called the front desk for a first aid kit and an ice pack. I felt like the one who'd been played. The next day, while co-workers happily went sightseeing, I sulked in bed with my injury. Adam refused to go out, insisting on staying with me. And Jason, the culprit, was there too, making the cramped room feel even smaller. The three of us played cards all morning, Jason as landlord, and he lost everything. I took sick leave to rest at home, dumping all my work on Jason. Adam kept me company one day, then got pulled into filming. To my surprise, Julia cut her honeymoon short and came back. I hugged her, brimming with sisterly love, only for her to block it with, "I'm pregnant." I froze for several seconds, limbs flailing uselessly. "I'm gonna be a godmother?" Julia pressed down my flapping arms. "Sprained ankle and you're still bouncing around. How'd that happen?" Her gaze flicked meaningfully toward Jason, who was helping Tony in the kitchen. "He did it?" she asked. My face burned. That sounded way too indecent. Julia narrowed her eyes. "Be honest. Isabel, do you want to be my kid's godmother? Or his aunt? Cut it out. Don't play dumb. Say Jason's name and your mind goes filthy. Think I'm blind? Was I that obvious?" Of course Julia knew me too well. If she hadn't, she wouldn't have handed me over to Jason drunk. I stayed quiet. And Julia just grinned, pulling a gift box from her bag and shoving it at me. "Got you something special. Perfume? You know I don't use it." "This is different," Julia sighed in exasperation. "Straight from our honeymoon paradise, you know what it's for." "Oh, I got it," I sneered outwardly, but tucked it away like treasure. After dinner, Julia winked at me on the sly. Too bad I was an invalid, no chance to make a move on Jason even if I wanted. Sigh. "What's with the sigh?" "Nothing." I shook my head, just thinking Tony's impressive married, and already expecting. As I spoke, I gathered my courage to glance at Jason, hope flickering inside. Ever since the team trip, I'd felt a shift between us. Maybe it was time to break the stalemate. Jason's expression stayed cool. "What are you trying to say?" I choked. "Can't you tell?" He frowned. "Spit it out." "I'm saying, at the last second, I swerved, gritting my teeth. You're not good." Silence stretched for 10 seconds before Jason laughed, chilling enough to make my skin crawl. I hobbled back a few steps. "I'm not good?" he repeated. I retreated until my back hit the wall. No escape. "Tell me," Jason pressed in. "That day, was I the one clutching my waist, nearly unable to get out of bed?" "You." My face blazed red. Enough talk. I looped my arms around his neck and yanked him down, kissing him square on the lips. A short kiss. Jason pushed me back, eyes shadowed. "Isabel, I don't want to be your consolation prize." My mind went blank. Then Carlos's words resurfaced. "They say you couldn't have Tony, so you settled for the director." Back then, I'd laughed it off. "Between Adam and me, you choose me." Jason gave a faint smile. "But what about between me and Tony? Did you only turn to me because you couldn't have him?" I was shaken. "Jason, I never realized." Jason just stared. No words. "You're really good at making things up," I muttered. "No wonder he was hot and cold with me. You're influenced by gossip." I clenched my fists. Carlos has to go. This time it was Jason's turn to look stunned. "So you don't like Tony?" I asked. "What then you like me?" Jason paused. "Like you enough to listen to you and Carlos bad-mouthing me every day." Damn. To prove my innocence as just a loyal wingwoman, I showed Jason everything. Every chat I'd ever had with Tony. Practically 3 messages out of 4 were about Julia. The record wasn't long. Jason skimmed it quickly. After a pause, he looked at me. At their wedding, you cried. That was tears of joy. Do you get what tears of joy even mean? I snapped. Jason's eyes glinted with amusement. Tossing me my phone, he asked, "So, what's your conclusion?" Before I could answer, he pulled me into his arms, lips brushing mine. "Let's renegotiate how you'll pay me back with your body. No censorship this time, injured or not." I regretted it. If I'd known Jason was this easy to win over, I wouldn't have wasted money moving in across from him, turning myself from rich girl to pauper. Jason chuckled, coaxing me with promises that his paycheck would be mine to manage. Liberation wasn't all that dramatic after all. As my boyfriend, Jason indulged me. But as my boss, he stayed strictly professional. At work, we still clashed loudly over disagreements. On the bright side, I got double the pay for single work. What was there to complain about? I raised an eyebrow, slid my foot under the table to hook Jason's ankle, trailing upward. In an instant, Jason lost steam. I smirked to myself, so easy to control. In the meeting room, colleagues gawked as Jason and I went from daggers drawn to calmly praising each other's proposals. Since our relationship wasn't public yet, they must have thought we'd both lost our minds. Carlos was the first to suspect. He came to me, deadly serious. "Director Bell, I think the director's in love." "Oh?" I feigned ignorance. "Haven't you noticed his temper's gotten so much better?" This morning I made the dumbest mistake. And not only did he not yell, he smiled at me. Smiled! My heart nearly melted. He actually shuddered. It's terrifying. "Director Bell, you live next door. Ever see him bring a girlfriend home?" So he was half right. "No," I forced a calm face. "But what kind of woman do you think Jason would like?" Carlos thought hard, staring at me. "Want the truth?" Did he know? I nodded. "The total opposite of you. Someone gentle, soft-spoken, clingy. The sweet little bird type. If he dated someone like you, Belle, you'd fight non-stop." Seeing my face sour, Carlos scrambled to cover. "Don't you think so?" Makes sense. That evening, when Carlos showed up at the theater with popcorn and soda, he nearly dropped dead on the spot because Jason and I were holding hands. "Seriously?" Jason asked him. I laughed until I doubled over. Hugging Jason's arm, I pitched my voice soft, teasing. "Seriously? Brother, you don't know the things he says about you behind your back." Carlos paled. I patted his shoulder. "Relax. Just kidding. We're heading in." Just as I moved to hand over tickets, Jason tugged me back. "Where are you going? Movie's about to start." "Not anymore." Jason dragged me home instead, pressing me onto the bed. "Your ankle just healed, and you're already seducing me?" His black eyes burned, voice low and magnetic. "So eager?" I looked at my pinned wrists and rolled my eyes. Carlos was right. Right about what? That you like soft little women who act coy. Jason laughed softly, kissing my cheek. "I only like it when you act coy." A rare sweet line from him left me dazed. Normally, the next steps would come naturally, except I blew it, playing coy too hard. "Brother, isn't driving without a license a bit reckless?" Jason froze, then looked at me with amused patience. "So, this is your way of proposing marriage?" "Proposing. It's called modesty. Can't you read the signs?" Furious, I yanked at his shirt buttons, ready to pounce, like a ravenous wolf. I didn't care anymore. It wasn't the first time anyway. But Jason stubbornly refused. I even pulled out the fragrance Julia had given me, and it still didn't get him to yield. So I gave him the cold shoulder for days. Early Saturday morning, Jason yanked me out of bed and shoved me into the car. Still half asleep, I heard his plan announced. Grab the household registration books over the weekend and get the marriage license Monday. My drowsy head slammed against the car window. The pain jolted me awake. "Isn't this too fast?" "Fast." Jason rubbed my forehead, sighing. Tony met Julia more than a year later than us. Yet he cut the line and already has a kid. I'm already behind. Winning over Jason's parents was easy, especially Mrs. Smith. When she heard Jason was taking me to register for marriage, she happily slipped her jade bracelet onto my wrist. My parents, however, couldn't have been more different. My mum, a sucker for good looks, lit up the moment she saw Jason. My dad, on the other hand, looked ready to punch him. "Belle's not that young anymore," my mum scolded. "We know him. He's solid. I'm fine with it. What about you?" Mum always had the final say, but Dad wasn't having it. He challenged Jason to a drinking match. I grabbed Dad's arm nervously. "Forget it, Dad. Too much alcohol's bad for you." He looked wounded. "She's not even married yet, and already siding with her husband-to-be?" "No, Dad," I said innocently. "I'm just worried. You can't outdrink him." Instantly fired up, Dad hauled out a whole crate of his prized liquor. As expected, he was the first one down. Jason didn't fare much better, drunk and glassy-eyed, clutching the household books Mrs. Smith had slipped him, grinning like an idiot. Mum and I tucked Dad into bed, then dragged Jason back to my room. After setting a basin of hot water, I came out to find Jason sitting on the edge of the bed, stubbornly hugging those books. Remembering the old recording he'd once used to blackmail me, I grinned and snapped photos of him, planning to use them against him when he sobered up. I was mid-shot when Jason suddenly looked up, making me nearly spill the basin. "Come here," he beckoned. I wrung the towel and wiped his face. "Happy now that you've got what you wanted?" My hand slid over his waist. "Can I touch now?" Jason smiled. "Don't you think something's missing?" "What?" I tugged up his shirt, aiming for his abs. Before I could get there, Jason caught my hand and lifted it. In that moment, something cool slipped onto my ring finger. "Silly girl," he murmured. "You let me trick you into this without a proposal." I stared dumbfounded at the diamond ring on my hand. Lust clouded my brain. Rituals and formalities vanished from thought. "Do you like it?" I nodded hard, eyes stinging. "Actually, I got you something too, just a little embarrassing." Jason held my hand, voice gentle. "Doesn't matter what it is, I'll love it." Encouraged, I opened the nightstand drawer and placed a fresh box of Okamoto in his palm. "Do you like it?" A crack appeared in Jason's perfect composure, his whole face darkening. He inhaled sharply. "Isabel, don't regret this." I won't, I said eagerly, rubbing my hands, though a flicker of worry crossed me. "You drank so much. What if you can't?" Before I could finish manage, his stormy kiss swallowed my words. That night, Jason proved to me, with action never challenge a man's pride.